Welcome back to the Clare Champion Special General Election Preview. We're now going to look at the prospects of Fianna Fáil gaining 2 seats. Tony, in the last general election, Fianna Fáil got a very strong vote of almost it's over 31%, yet they failed to win 2 seats. Surely you will be poised to win 2 seats on this occasion.
Yeah, 3,000 ahead in the first count would normally look like enough to sort of win 2 seats. A very good friend who unfortunately is a Fine Gael supporter in North Clare, who still says to me, would we need to give you 4,000 of a lead? Or 5?
It's okay.
Or would you want 6 maybe? You know, so I duck him whenever I see him on time, but sometimes I don't manage that. So I don't know how many it would take. But the critical thing the last time was that after the Clare Champion poll, through some means, Geraldine and her people managed to persuade Fine Gael people who were supporting Pat Breen, who was clearly going to have a very big vote, to support Joe Geary, and they came in very evenly. And in our case, there were almost 6,000 votes between Timmy Dooley and our second candidate, who was Michael Monty McDonagh. And that's the kind of gap that will ensure that you win 1 seat. If that were to happen again, we could well win 1 seat again. You know, so that's really the difficulty for Fianna Fáil. And the general view, it's my view, but the general view is that Timmy Dooley would be comfortably ahead of the other 2 candidates. And that being the case, one of the other 2, Cathal Crowe as the mayor, of course, which is good for his profile, is down in South East Clare, and Rita McInerney's in the west. And it'll be very difficult, in my view, to get support to transfer from one to the other. On the other hand, there is a Fianna Fáil cohort of people, like the Fine Gael ones that you managed to mobilise the last time, who don't give 2 damns who the 2 TDs are. All they want is 2 seats. And they will make a judgment at some stage, and I think we haven't reached that stage yet, and that's why I'm a little uncomfortable about the mood, because I think the mood of the people is fairly volatile, but it hasn't settled yet sufficiently to know what's going to happen. I mean, that's always the case in an election anyway.
I get the feeling Tony would like to come to a Fine Gael strategy committee meeting some night.
Yeah. Well, I think there
was probably a lot of looking with Fine Gael winning the 2 seats in the last election now.
What they simply did was they contacted solid Fine Gael voters, known supporters, and people went to them and said, look, we need you to transfer your vote from your intended vote for candidate A to candidate B. And they did it. They were disciplined and did it, but they were able to do it. But in Fianna Fáil's case this time, it's a bit more difficult, because the proximity of the 2 would be seen as the front runners. That would be the Cathal and Timmy and Cathal, whichever way you want to put it. And Rita wouldn't like me to hear saying that, but you look at it, that corner, they're coming out of the same corner.
Having said
that's difficult.
Having said that, both Michael McNamara and Timmy Dooley were elected from East Clare.
They were, but now you're asking party supporters to put their allegiance to one or the other on the line. So unless you go north or back west and ask people then to go to transfer to the strongest candidate, and it could be that Rita will be stronger than we think she'll be. So then you're in trouble, because nobody down that corner in East Clare or North East Clare are going to be anxious to be saying that they moved their vote, and as a result their local men didn't get in, that they abandoned the local person. It's much easier to go to North Clare or whatever and say to them, can you vote for candidate A or candidate B?
But really committed party people of any of the parties, and that would include Sinn Féin and Labour and everybody else, will happily do whatever is required. I mean, there's a cohort of your support. It's probably as little as a quarter now who would do it, But that'd be enough. That'd be plenty.
I would say that the younger votes kind of make up their own mind too, depending on, what's happening.
I don't think it's as strong as that. I think that they're still going with what the family debate will and loyalties will come into play in it. But it's hard to... How much of the loyal party vote is left?
That's the question I'm asking,
I'd say at least a quarter of the vote that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael got the last time. In our case, 4,000, and Fine Gael's 3.5 or whatever it was. Are the kind of people who want 2 TDs, and if you can tell them what will deliver, they'll do it. And Fine Gael managed to do that the last time.
So essentially, you're waiting for the Clare Champion poll to come out.
Well, it'd be very helpful. The polls are very expensive.
I think you were waiting. I think with the snap election, I think the time went against us on this
So
occasion.
they've no poll to count it.
No,
There's a bit of polling going on, all right.
But probably with the parties. But it looks as if at this stage, I suppose if we had to kind of call it, it looks as if you're going to have one Fine Gael, 2 Fianna Fáil, and the last seat is kind of up for grabs. Would you agree?
Well,
with
that's
that?
what Michael Harty is predicting, and that's entirely possible. But it should have happened the last time, and it didn't. So
I wouldn't quite agree with that now. I solidly back my 2 candidates that we'll have two seats in this
Which
election.
2?
Well, I'm not constituency chair now, so I'm not privy to strategy in the biggest sense, but we've 3 very good candidates, so I won't get pulled into, we'll certainly get our 2 seats.
Do you think the 3 of them actually would be very close together?
I'll make no comment at all on my candidates. I'm proud of the 3 of them.
No, that's fair enough.
if they're close together, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you
I think that could actually happen. That could actually happen.
That could,
that could happen.
I agree with you. I know what you're at, but
But equally, we better watch West Clare. Even though the population is decreasing, there is a very strong sense of they wanting to be represented, and they want to have someone of their own. So that could benefit a cross-party to Rita McInerney. Would also probably send to the minister, who would be seen probably West Clare candidate in close proximity to Kilrush.
There isn't electoral affinity between North and West Clare. People assume that there would be.
There isn't.
But there never has been. And there won't be on this occasion,
So I'd say that any vote that's straggling will decide on where it's going to go in respect of West Clare. Will more or less who they think is the best West Clare to represent West Clare, or more knowledgeable or based, whatever way they'll do it, I would imagine. I could be wrong, but I would imagine that West Clare will. And then there is an independent candidate from Quilty, is it?
Joseph Wolfe.
Yeah. So what kind of vote will he take from Rita's chances? Or is he a different area altogether? Is it?
And Roisin Garvey is living.
We've left
based
Roisin
up there.
Yeah.
Martin Conway's up there.
Yeah.
Like North and West Clare is a good bit more crowded than the population sort of warrants. So it militates against everybody to an extent.
And then it will be interesting to see what the Green vote is going to do. And is it strong? Roisin got a good vote in the local elections, and she got good transfers. So will that transfer into the general election? Excuse me. Will she get the transfers, and will she be popular? She's well known, and she has done an awful lot of work on the environment in her role. But is she well known enough, and is she seen as strong enough? And then it will depend on the Greens. And I listened to their debate.
What about their national policies?
That's what I was going to say. I noticed a nice softening of some of their policies in their launch.
Is that going to hinder her?
Well, I have very strong views on the environment, and I always have what's necessary. And some of their ideas, in some ways, aren't radical enough for me. And with all due respect to everybody's bought into the electric car, and fine. I looked at buying an electric car last year, and I said no. And I said no for a very good reason, in that I looked at it and I said, I'm here driving an electric car. I can't drive from A to B without stopping to recharge. I don't know whether I'm going to have recharging points. That's in the future. Then I looked at the one that's really bugging me and tormenting me at the moment, and it's the one I can't come to grips with. I'm looking at the battery. The battery life is roughly 8,000. Now, some people are saying that they'll replace it after 8 years free of charge. And in other cases, they're saying the cost of replacing it will be 8,000. Now, fair enough, if that's what it is, and I have a car and it only costs me 8,000 to change my car, to upgrade after 8 years, that's not bad value. But what I can find, and I haven't seen any place, is where am I going to dispose of my battery? That's the first thing. Are there going to be battery dumps, or are there going to be bring centres where the battery will go and be properly disposed of? Or are they going to be heaved in over the hedge, or what's going to happen to them? Then I move on to what goes to make up a battery. And what are they called? The earth. They're minerals anyway, but it's titanium and all those rare minerals. They're rare minerals, and they're only mined in certain parts of the world. But they're very rare and very precious, and that's a rare commodity. And I can't hear anybody talking or speaking about the possible implications of that.
In terms of carbon
So-
in terms of carbon taxes, we'll say we hear every day about climate change, and there's a huge wave for that. But in terms of when it comes to the voting booth, where people turn away from the Greens because of carbon tax.
Well, if you're looking at your bills, and I look at my electricity bill every 2 months when it comes into me, and you're looking at it and you're seeing the costs of it, and you're trying to see how you can reduce it. You can't reduce the standing charge, you can't reduce the carbon tax, and so therefore you have to cut back on your own. So it's how, as in each action that we do has to be brought down to us at individual level. And it's all right to have a global policy, but then that has to be reflected in what each of us does as an individual and what we are expected to do. We saw the furore when they were talking about putting in charging for water and having a set amount of water, not enough, and then having meters. When you try to bring it down to that level, it's that bit harder. So how that is going to reflect on the vote, which is what we're talking about, how those things are going to impact on the vote remains to be seen. And that, I think, is the
What's your assessment, Tony,
imponderable.
in terms of Roisin's kind of core vote and
Yeah, when we were talking before the council election, you would have felt, and I think I probably said that I thought she would be fifth. Because it was a very rural constituency. Not Clare's very rural. There are no really big towns. In Estymon, I suppose, in the Hinch and Milton Malbert. But it is quite rural. And you would have thought that a Green candidate was unlikely to do enough against the two big parties. And I suppose, anyone would have expected a 2-2 outcome, really. And I thought she would be fifth at worst, and she won the seat. So, and she did it in a very rural area. And now in this election, the two big towns of Ennis and Shannon are into play. And the bigger towns like 6 Mile Bridge and Newmarket and so on and so forth. And what I don't know is there an urban vote for the kind of measures that Patricia is talking about? If there is, she's in contention for a seat. If there isn't, I think she'll probably have to work through it for a number of elections. And that brings me to Sinn Féin, I guess I forget to say it. I'm astounded that Nolene Moran isn't running, because I thought that she was the kind of candidate who would gradually build over a fairly long period a sufficient level of support to be a viable candidate.
I think Roisin will be there or thereabouts. I think she's making herself very well known, and if there's a green swing,
a green wave,
and there is a green wave,
will it translate into votes? I suppose that's the burning
So
question.
right
that's the
then,
burning
whose seat
question.
is she taking?
How? Yeah. Well,
She also has a Fianna Fáil background, which would be a help, obviously, in
But it was a help in the
Clare.
council election. A very considerable help.
where'd she get her votes for the
Well,
council
I
election?
suppose Michael Harty's seat is free in a sense, and that's the way I see it. I think it's a battle in a 3-seater between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and almost certainly another seat there. I'll be very surprised if it's 2-2, but it could be. But I'll be quite surprised.
Tony, are you playing it down now to get the Fianna Fáil vote out, or what are you doing? Because you really are going against the tide in one sense.
In what sense?
I spent so long doing that, it's only going to change that.
You might explain, Patricia.
He's adamant that it's going to be 3-2.
3-1.
3-1, sorry, 3-1. We know that they have two strong candidates. Fianna Fáil have two very strong candidates, and possibly the third one is equally strong. So that means then that you're saying that the seat that's in danger is probably one of the Fine Gael seats.
That would seem to me the way this will work out. A lot of people are saying to me that it'll be 2-2.
Why
I
would
think it can't be 2-2 because I can't see Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael together getting close to 70% even. And if they don't, there's 30%, which is a quarter and a half left. And the only way that would end up having no seats is if there were maybe 3 people very even and none of them were so close enough, a bit like Malty McDonough was the last time. If one of them or 2 of them even have decent votes, then whoever is the stronger will be elected.
no one has mentioned Michael McNamara in this debate.
Well, we will be
because
coming to Michael.
He seems to be in the picture to me, anyway.
Very much so. Yeah. Obviously, as a former Labour deputy, and now that he's independent, would actually probably strengthen his chances.
Yeah, like that vote that Michael Harty got, you see.
Yeah.
Would a certain type of person would vote independent Michael McNamara perhaps, or Roisin Garvey, I feel. That's a kind of a vote that's willing to change.
And the problem for the parties is
How
a Fianna Fáil or
where's it
Fine
going
Gael
from?
transfer will be a long way down that list,
Yeah, we'll be looking at some of the independent candidates in the third part
right, I get you.
of the programme. We'll just take another break. Bye.